Hey everybody. So for today's movie review, I'm going to talk about the Three Stooges movie. This film came out in 2012. I didn't get around to seeing it in the theater, and I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't. You'll see here in the review why. But this was not really a reboot because there really wasn't a Three Stooges movie before this. There were just kind of Three Stooges. There was a Three Stooges show that kind of, I guess, put things together like a movie, but it never really was officially a movie kind of thing. So this was the film adaptation of the Three Stooges in some way. Um, and I recognize this guy. I think his name was Will Sasso from Mad TV. I recognized him out of the three. Don't know this actor's name, but I know he was on Will and Grace at one point, I believe. And I have no idea what the actor who played Mo was in. I have no idea what else he was in besides this movie. Um, but like the Three Stooges skit, the Three Stooges show also, they were split up into episodes. In the episodes, eventually made the movie. Um, so these three episodes basically are the story of the Three Stooges movie. We have a story where there was a noise back there for some reason. Um, there was the first story obviously deals like the orphanage, the origin of the Three Stooges, and kind of how the orphanage is going out of business, and that the Stooges have to find a way to um, get money to save the orphanage from preventing it from going out of business. And then there's a second episode that deals with Sofia Vergara playing this woman who hires the Stooges to kill off what you think is her husband at the time, and basically because she approaches them because they're on the street asking for a large amount of money. Nobody's really paying attention to them, and so they kind of view this as their only solution to getting this money for the orphanage. And this is for the second episode, like I said. Um, and so basically, after a series of events, they find out that this whole killing the husband thing really isn't worth it. There's another deal that you'll find out later on when you view the film, why that situation really wasn't meant for up for money to begin with. And then there was a third episode that dealt with something that kind of crossed over from the second episode involving the Stooges kind of breaking up after a while. And Mo had this big opportunity to be on the show with like Snooki and some other big time reality show stars in real life. And basically, the Stooges had to find a way to recruit him, still get the money for the orphanage, since that's still kind of the reoccurring goal throughout the movie is to kind of save this orphanage. And so basically, they kind of had to wrap everything up for the third act, the third episode, as they call it in the movie. And the whole thing with Sofia Vergara and the husband kind of leaks over that episode also. So they try to wrap everything up with that also, while still kind of telling this all in the spirit of the Three Stooges, with the slap on the face and the squeeze on the nose, and they're hurting each other with things that would either kill or severely hurt people in real life if you really hit people with these things. I guess a good example of traditional Stooge isms that kind of tributed the original Three Stooges in this movie is like there's a scene where Curly's trying to help out Mo and Larry, who are working on this bell tower for the orphanage near the beginning of the film. And this is when they're adults, because there's actually, for the orphanage story, which is episode one, you actually see the Stooges as kids also. They really go into depth with why they never really had parents and all that other stuff. Um, so basically, he's helping out. He's getting the chainsaw, and it's still working while he's climbing up this ladder to go help the Stooges. It breaks off the legs of the ladder, so they can't get down. So there's things like that happen in the movie that really represent what the original Three Stooges were all about, and kind of how that modernized, because this is kind of told in a modern day setting, and how that kind of still works to this day as to the Three Stooges working for a film. So, like I said, guys, this was basically three episodes that leaked over to each other to form a movie, and that basically is the Three Stooges movie. So, for the Three Stooges, guys, I thought it was okay. Um, there's just a lot of things about this movie that I really didn't like, but there were some things about the movie that I did like, and I wish they could have explored some more. Because the Farrelly Brothers, who did Shallow Hal and There's Something About Mary directed this movie. I think this is their first kids movie that they did. Also, it's their first movie that has a PG rating, I believe. Um, so for positives, guys, I thought the three leads who played the Stooges did a very good job, both the young and the adult versions. The kids who they hired to play the young Stooges did a great job. It's definitely in the spirit of the original Three Stooges. The three kids they hired for that. Even the adult ones. I mean, they especially Will Sasso. I think that's his name. I apologize if it is if it's not. Um, the actor who played Curly, the adult one, also he did a terrific job bringing the original Curly back to life in modern day. He definitely really understood kind of that character very well. And though the actor who played Moe and Larry did a good job too, he just really nailed it with the Curly role. Um, I like the whole live action cartoon feeling of this because the Three Stooges, the originals, also had that kind of feeling where they're hitting each other with things that would normally hurt people, that would normally kill people in some ways, and they definitely kept that spirit. They kept the rubber hammers, they kept the rubber objects. They were using objects throughout the movie that kind of like the original Three Stooges, and I learned this through like a behind the scenes thing that they showed. Uh, so they could really do this thing without actually getting these actors hurt for this movie. Certain cinematic episodes carried over. There's a kid in the orphanage that appears in other episodes, what I thought was kind of neat. And he has a significant role. Moe's feelings towards the Stooges is definitely more explored than in this film, than it was more so than it was in the original's Three Stooges show. So I kind of like how they showed, Moe's perspective on the whole thing, since he was kind of always the leader of the group in some ways. And kind of how he really wished that Curly and Larry developed over time, and they really didn't. Um, and kind of how this whole thing that happened with him in the orphanage carried over later on to their lives, which they later explore in the movie. Certain modernizations worked for this film too, like Curly trying to figure out how an iPhone works, or like Mo being on the Jersey Shore like reality show. I liked how they tried to modernize the students. In some ways, modernizing them pretty much worked in some ways. Their use of humor, the traditional Three Stooges humor is in this film, along with some occasional Farrelly Brother isms, really dirty humor. Nothing too extreme though. But the Three Stooges humor, if you're really looking for that, it still is ingrained within this film. So they definitely at least kept the humor of the Three Stooges. And one thing that I both liked and didn't like, since it's kind of the perfect time to mention this, since we're about to go into the negatives of this film, is the whole Sofia Vergara woman who wants to kill off the husband thing. I think it both worked and didn't work. And what I mean by that is they have the idea going, the idea is interesting. It was an interesting way to kind of give the Stooges something to do throughout the movie. It definitely kind of almost had like kind of the opening of Psycho, if you guys have seen that. Of course, I would hope you've seen it, with Janet Leigh and Sam Loomis, where they're kind of, oh, let's Sam, let's get married, and kind of thing. It kind of reminded me of that, but I really wish they brought it to a more comedic level. It almost felt like they were taking it too seriously after a while. So I just think if they approached it differently, I think that segment of the film could have really worked really well. Um, for the negatives, guys, I think the overall film was just a big mess. It just really could not decide what kind of film it wanted to be. Though I understand it was broken up into 3 episodes, I think the 3 episodes should have connected more so than it did. Um, Either play around with the Sofia Vergara thing some more, or play around with the orphanage thing some more. Try to find more of a main focus, because there was just so many different directions and so many subplots in this. It was almost kind of hard to figure out what was the main plot. I would say more so the orphanage, but like I said, there was just so many subplots in here. It was hard to distinguish which one was the main plot of the movie after a while. Near the end of the film, they used fake Farley Brothers. Like they pretended like they were the Farley Brothers, but they really weren't. Near the end of the film, to represent kind of that, the whole thing was fake with the rubber hammers and all that stuff. I really wish they used the real Farley Brothers if they wanted to go that route. Um, I think if they really wanted to use just actors telling you about it, maybe just use the Stooges. Maybe just I don't know. I just think it's really stupid that if you're gonna say you're the Farley brothers saying that it was all fake, use the Farley brothers. Don't just use fake actors so when people see them, they're like, oh, that's the Farley brothers, because it's not. Um, so yeah, I don't know what the reasoning behind that. I really wish they just used the Stooges at a backstage somewhere in Hollywood and just showed the fake stuff. What they did, I just really didn't like with that. I think they needed to reinvent the Stooges some more. There was some parts, like I said, with Moe's feelings towards the Stooges and stuff like that that I think they really could have played around with some more. Maybe develop Larry and Curly some more, because though Curly was the comic relief and Larry was just kind of the supportive character, I would have really would have liked to have seen their kind of inner feelings toward each other, kind of thing. I think because they explored that with Moe a lot, I would have really liked to have seen that happen with Curly and Larry also. Um, and I think they needed some better tributes to this film. There's just some really lame tributes to the original Three Stooges that I think just didn't work very well. Um, the mystery and suspense thriller like ending that I'm not going to reveal, but there is kind of this suspense thriller ending thing that they tried to throw in near the end, and it really didn't work. I almost felt like they were trying to relive Dumb and Dumber. If you guys have seen that with Jeff Daniels and the bulletproof vest from that movie, it kind of reminded me of that scene, and it was just kind of a lame way to relive that part of that production. I really wish they could have left that behind and just make a Three Stooges movie rather than like, oh, we're just gonna relive a scene from Dumb and Dumber. I just think that didn't work very well. There was some extreme over the topness in this film, you guys. And when I say extreme, I mean some really big extreme things. Like, I understand it's the Three Stooges. I understand it's ridiculous. I understand it's meant to be over the top. I know that it's, if the show was like that back when it was on TV and on the radio and all that. Um, but I mean, come on. When you put a chainsaw into somebody's head, anybody who have seen a gory horror film is going to know that that's going to rip right through their head and that's going to kill them. And to just see it on screen where what happens, and you see this big spark on their head, it just like that's just not what that's like, and it just almost felt like they were treating the audience like we were stupid, and I don't like when a director insults the audience's intelligence like that. I just think that's a really bad way to handle things. So I really wish some of the extreme over the topness just got left behind a little bit. Maybe have more reason behind it because it just didn't work very well. Um, I would have liked to have seen more Three Stooge isms. I would have liked to have seen. I understand that like they homaged some episodes throughout it. They tributed, what the Three Stooges were about. Maybe have more of it. Maybe have less Farley Brother isms and just make it more of a traditional Three Stooge story. Um, I just think the film would have greatly benefited from it. So overall, guys, I give the Three Stooges a 7 out of 10. I almost didn't give it to it, but I was almost going to give it a lower rating than that. But like I said, there were some things I think that did work very well, but there was just a lot of things I was really disappointed with, and I think they really could have improved upon with a better script. So Three Stooges, guys, 7 out of 10. It's okay.